share a different tip of the week to be able to help you grow in your knowledge, to be able to help you grow in your business. And if you'd like to see some of the prior tips of the weeks that we've done, so I've got a whole list of all the ones that we've done in the past. You can check out our YouTube channel, you can check out our Facebook page, Texas REIAs, and you can subscribe to that to just keep up with us. And this week's tip is something that is very near and dear to my heart, but this week's tip is something that's going to keep you guys in moving boxes and probably moving every single or every other year for the rest of your life as a real estate investor, if you can just take a moment and imagine that. What if I told you that as a real estate investor who is living in great houses, that if you sold a house every 2 years after you lived in it, that the gain that you got could be excluded from your income taxes, up to $250,000 for a single individual and up to $500,000 for a married couple? I know what you guys are thinking. Are there any ordained ministers in here tonight? Because the 500 sounds a little bit better than the 250, right? And this is where I get to sing. I get to sing the wedding jam, all the single ladies, and I can put all the single ladies over here and all the single guys over here, and maybe we can make some magic happen when it comes to homestead investing. So when we first got started in real estate investing, our number one goal was we had to replace the income that we were making from our corporate America jobs, right? How many of you guys are saying, like, I'm ready to quit my corporate America job and now is good? Okay, a couple of you guys, all right? So we had to replace income. And we also wanted to be able to build wealth because we didn't have a 401k anymore, right? So we're able to build wealth through our, for example, our residential rental properties, right? And just reinvesting and buying and holding real estate. And then we also wanted to have what I'll call homestead wealth, right? This is what homestead wealth looks like, is being able to exclude the capital gain from the sale of your main home, up to $250,000 for single and up to $500,000 if you're filing jointly with your spouse. So for us, that sounded pretty good. So we basically need to find properties at a discount, right? Because discount for real estate investors, that's just part of our DNA, right? That's our blood type, is discount. And we got to get everything at a discount. We get it at a good enough discount, right? And we make the needed repairs that are over the time that we're living there, right? And then we go and we put it back for sale in the market. Well, guys, think about this. To be able to get a $250,000 gain, how much do you have to make in income? To be able to get that tax-free, how much do you have to make it in income? Somebody's going to do the exact math for me, but my guess is somewhere around $350,000+, right? So just by moving every 2 years, right, by buying right, because as a real estate investor, we make our money on the buy, just by buying right, it's almost like we got a job that was just finding a great home and living in it for 2 years that paid us about $175,000 a year both years. Do you guys follow that? Yes, that sounds really good. Let's all go do that. So this is a strategy that, and I'm so sorry, but I can promise you no one feels sorry for you. This is a strategy that will have you in moving boxes, and literally there are things that I have not unpacked from house to house to house, just literally like, and you guys, how many of you guys have moved in the last couple of years? Yeah, moving boxes, like especially the wardrobes, are like really expensive, and the ones that hold all your plates, right? Those are crazy, ridiculous expensive. It's almost like I'll just sell my stuff instead. So those are the boxes that you will end up keeping in your garage as you move from house to house to house. And this is, how many of you guys have heard of all of the different tax benefits for you guys in the IRS code, right? Are there any like this? No, there's 1031 exchange, but this I think is even better. In fact, if you make over 250 and you're single, guess what? You get to pay capital gains tax on the balance Or if you're really savvy as a real estate investor and have a lot of knowledge and financial friends, you may even be able to do a 1031 exchange on the amount that's over $250,000. How cool would that be? And for those of you guys who are not aware, 1031 exchange is effectively a deferment of your taxes. So you can actually combine some of these strategies if you have both savvy and financial friends that can help you with this. So I want to go over some rules because there are a few rules, but let me tell you this. This is one of the few gifts in the IRS tax code to you guys, and this is one of the biggest gifts I think that there is for us as real estate investors. So to qualify, you have to meet both the ownership and the use test. What does that mean? That means you have to have owned your home and used it as your primary residence for a period that was at least 2 years out of the last 5 years. What the heck does that mean? That means, and how many of you guys, I'm curious, have ever had a house that you moved into as your homestead, you grew out of it, right? You either got married or you had kids or you just wanted something new and you kept that property as a rental property. Anybody in here has done that strategy? Okay, so there's still hope for you. So what does that mean? That means that as long as if in 2 of the last 5 years it was your homestead, you can still sell that property and take this money tax-free. Now, a couple other I'll go through some of the other qualifications here as well. And one of those is kind of is what I would call a big one, but I want to go over these as well. So you can meet the ownership and use test during different 2-year periods. So what that means is if, for example, it was a homestead in year 1 and it was a homestead in year 4, right? For 1 year in each of those periods, you can still meet this test, right? Now, you've got to meet both tests during that 5-year period ending on the date of sale. So you do have to kind of time this exactly right. But how is the IRS knowing that it is exactly right anyway? I'm not suggesting cheat on your taxes, by the way. I just want to make sure I'm super clear on that. But the truth is, do they know? They don't, right? So could they ask you for utility bills? Yes, they could. Could they audit you? Yes, they could. So what I'm suggesting is make sure your paperwork is in order. Make sure your paperwork is in order here. A couple other things. Now, if you sold another homestead and if you already took that $250,000 homestead exemption within the last 2 years, then you have to wait another 2 years to make that magic happen. What that means is you can't sell a homestead, call it something that you called a homestead and said, I've been here for 2 years, and then 1 year later sell another quote unquote homestead and say that you've been there 2 years. Even if it was some weird situation that one became a rental, one really became a homestead, because you do have to have that 2-year gap in between the sales there. And guys, so I'm not an attorney, CPA, or financial planner. I'm not an IRS auditor or anything like that either, but there are some great articles on it on the IRS website. So you can go to the irs.gov/tax topics/tc701.html, or you can just simply Google the $250,000 homestead exemption or the $500,000 homestead exemption. So I would love for that to be part of your journey. It has been part of ours, and it is a beautiful thing to be able to get tax-free, that type of money. Now, the only problem for us using this strategy right now here in Texas is what? What's the main problem with selling a house right now in Texas? Buying the other house, right? So, you know, it's funny because my husband's not in the room right now. He just left a few moments ago. But we had someone who had some interest in buying our house, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And my husband, the first thing he said was, I don't want to be homeless. And I'm like, don't worry, honey. We're going to be making so much money that I'm going to put you up in the fanciest hotel in town, and we'll just live there until we find the next place. I see someone can agree with me on that, right? And I will tell you, there is a little bit of matching in terms of timing, and what that's looked like for us is I remember one house that we sold. I want to say we sold it for like $750,000, And for about 3 months before we could move into the next house, we had to live in one of our rental properties that probably had a value of, I don't know, maybe $150,000 to $200,000 in a kind of a rough neighborhood, right? And so here I am pulling up in my kind of fancy, I'll just call it my fancy car, and I'm in a kind of a tough part of town. And it's like, you know, it's like, so whenever he says, I don't want to be homeless, I'm like, well, remember that time that we lived at Delano? And he's like, oh yeah, it's like literally we were kind of, you know, and had most of our stuff in containers. So we made our offices out of U-Haul boxes, and we put like a door on top, right? Because we knew it was temporary, and we were okay with it being temporary like that because we wanted the big win. Right? So sometimes is it okay to do things that are a little bit out of the normal to be able to get those big wins, right? And sometimes, you know, I've lived through a lot of remodels on our houses, and the only thing that I've had to like, and I'm sure some of you guys can identify with this, the only thing that I was like, I've got to make sure that I've got room for my, someone said wardrobe, someone said shoes, someone said makeup, someone said laptop, coffee. Just like, if I don't have my coffee, like I might accidentally on purpose kill somebody. So got to make sure we have that. So that was my only, that has been my only requirement. But sometimes as a real estate investor, you're going to be renovating houses that you live in. Just make sure you have room for the coffee maker, because at least that's where I am. So was this a helpful tip, or was this a new tip for some of you guys? Was this a new tip for some of you guys? Okay, good. So that's one of the ways that we get to help the members of the association by helping you become, giving you more tribal knowledge, giving you more resources, building out your network, right? So that you're surrounded by other successful investors who have done the things that you guys want to do, right? Who can tell you where the potholes are. So that's, you know, when I first walked into my first real estate investor association meeting, I had people that were uncommonly just kind and gracious in terms of opening up funds, opening up deals, opening up tribal knowledge, opening up power team, opening up resources. And that's one of the cool things that we get to do as part of the Real Estate Investor Association, as opposed to having you guys try and figure it all out yourself, which I'm sure a lot of you in here, I can tell, look like the engineering types who could probably figure out everything, you know, yourselves. But some of you guys are saying, yeah, no, I want to take the shortcut, and now is good. So as part of Texas REIAs, we can help with the now is good. And be honored to have you guys join our tribe because Texas REIAs has everything that you need as a real estate investor.